right, folks, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate you being here. I know it's hard to find time during the day to come and do things like this, so we do not take it lightly that you have found that time, and we're so happy to have you. Some folks might trickle in as we're going through this presentation, but I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to the incredible Jessica Kubzansky to welcome you.
Hi friends, welcome. So thrilled you are here. Welcome to Boston Court, Pasadena. I just want to acknowledge that Boston Court, Pasadena is located on the unceded lands of the Gabrielino, Tongva, and Kizh peoples, more specifically the band of the Ha'amonga tribe. And we are so grateful for their stewardship of these lands. If you're interested in getting involved and supporting, out in our lobby we have a land acknowledgement on our wall with a QR code that shows you ways you can actually support. So please investigate that if you'd like to. Thrilled that you're here at Boston Court, Pasadena, and it is truly my honor to welcome Arts for LA to Boston Court. Arts for LA is such an important advocacy group. They are doing so many necessary and important things for our community, which desperately needs them. And so I couldn't be more thrilled that they are here, and join me in welcoming them. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Woohoo! All right, hi everyone. I'm Ricky Abeles. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the Director of Policy and Advocacy with Arts for LA. Again, thank you so much for being here. Our agenda's up on the screen, so you had some time to mingle and eat. If you didn't, please do eat after. There is plenty of food, or take some home with you. We encourage it. We are going to give you a presentation to give you some updates on our policy and advocacy agenda, let you know where we stand. We know there's a lot of work left to do, and that's why you're all here today. We want to hear your concerns, your ideas, your thoughts. I highly encourage you to participate in that portion of the event today. We have microphones set up at the bottom of the stage, as you can see, for you all to share so everyone can hear. I'll make a note on the public comment section. You'll see throughout the presentation on the progress slides, there's a QR code. You're going to be bombarded with QR codes today. That QR code leads to a sign-up form to offer a comment on the agenda items. Great. The reason we're doing it that way is because how many of you have participated in a city council or board of supervisors meeting? Yes! Oh, we love to see that. So exciting. So we hear so often from folks that they haven't participated, and we wanted to ensure that this would be kind of a trial run for that opportunity, so folks understand how it works. It's okay if we don't use that form. We will go by hand, but I do want to hear from you. That's super important. And then we'll close out with more time for networking so you can all continue to chat. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, next slide. So for those of you who don't know who we are Arts for LA, and our mission is to lead communities, artists, and organizations to advocate for an equitable, healthy, and vibrant LA region through the arts. We often hear, do we have a lobbyist in LA? Why don't we have people advocating for our needs? You do, we're here, we do it all the time. We meet regularly with elected officials to advocate for our 4 priority issue areas, which are arts education, affordable space, creative jobs, and resources and capital. Next slide, please. And so, those of you who do know us, you know that every year we release a policy and advocacy agenda. No longer will we be doing that. We still will release an agenda, but we have just heard from the field so many times that it's too fast, and that there isn't enough time to report back to the field on our success and our progress. We know that's important. We want to engage with you more throughout the year, and so in order to do that, we're moving to a 2-year cycle. And so we're currently in year 1, and that is when we release our policy and advocacy agenda. And then you'll see in the spring, we'll do an agenda rollout. This year we had a town hall virtually where we had 50 attendees. They were able to ask questions about the agenda. And then in the summer, we have what we call our community listening sessions. This public forum is one of those listening sessions. We are moving towards a membership-only model for the virtual listening sessions that we do. That way member organizations do have that perk. But we want to ensure that we're still getting input from the general community, and so that's what the public forum is for. And moving forward, we do want to have a multiple, so that might look like one in person like this and another virtually. That's later in the day or the evening for arts educators and others who can't attend during the day. And then in the fall, we have our State of the Arts Summit. I know some of you were there. Thanks for joining. It was bomb. And then we also do our budget advocacy. Year 2 is very similar. The two primary differences I want to point out is instead of releasing a new agenda, we will release a progress report. And that will not just highlight our successes and our wins, but also our pitfalls and what we're hearing from the community based on what we can do better as an advocacy organization. For example, we hear messaging is a big one. And then in the spring, the Laura Zucker Fellowship for Policy and Research, we are bringing it back. It's been on hiatus since 2021. Super excited about that. Whatever this fellow recommends in their report, at least one of those recommendations will be included in our next agenda. That way, we're incorporating their work into the work that we do. Next slide, please. All right. This is this year's agenda, to build a thriving creative infrastructure. This was built off of community listening sessions over the last couple of years, and again, it's hefty, and so we're excited to have more time to delve into it. And just before we jump in, go to the next slide, please. I wanna throw some stats at you. So SMU Data Arts has Arts Vibrancy Index. This is based on 947 US communities. And out of those 947, LA is ranked #1 in arts providers per capita. Yay, go us. Number 258, you'll see I changed the number up top but not below, ignore it. Number 258 in government funding and support. And we are actually ranked 947, that's correct, last in state arts funding. So, yeah, boo, wah, I know. But to build on that a little bit, I'm going to hand it over to Gustavo Herrera, our CEO.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. So thank you, Ricky, and want to just take a really quick moment also to thank our staff team, Melissa Flores, Bronson, Kiana, we've got Yamali, I know Gabrielle is somewhere in the house. Am I missing anyone? Robbie, please take time to connect with one another. It's such a pleasure to have you here. So as Ricky shared, number 258 in government funding. We've got such a long way to go. And I just want to emphasize, this is something that Arts for LA can't do without you. And so please, today is a step way into these conversations and ultimately advocate with us, please. Next slide. So as Ricky mentioned, we have 4 pillars to the work. There's resources and capital, that's one pillar. There's the jobs work, and then affordable space and arts education. And so just very quickly want to walk you through resources and capital. The fact that we're number 258, I don't feel I have to make a stronger case that this is a huge priority for our region. And the way in which we can do that is listed under our short-term priorities. So number 1 under short-term priorities is to double the OGP. OGP stands for Organizational Grant Program. It's a program administered by the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. It's about a $4.5 million budget. We are trying to double that budget, and it's been a long road to try and get that to happen with the county supervisors. Again, we need you. That's a huge priority. Second priority is around the arts development fee. So I hope you all know that in Los Angeles, we have what we call a percent for art program. That means that for developments that are a certain threshold, 1% of those funds are developed so that they can be kicked back to arts organizations, to artists, for arts purposes. And what we are doing in this area is really looking at the arts development fee programs in LA and trying to make them more flexible. Because the purpose, sometimes these programs are designed and they're too stringent. And we want to make sure that ultimately artists and the organizations that are surrounding these developments can easily access these resources. Second priority. Next slide, please. So just want to share with you a little bit on the progress that we've been able to make thus far. So since March of 2020, is that when yes, okay, March of 2020, we started advocating in support of artists and arts and cultural organizations, understanding that COVID was going to have a pronounced impact of our field. Since then, $100 million in relief and recovery. That includes American Rescue Plan dollars that was earmarked for artists and arts organizations. That also includes public and private funds that have been developed. I know we have Alvaro in the house here. Thank you for being here. But California Community Foundation administered one of the most important creative recovery programs for Los Angeles, and we want to see more of that. We want to see private funders investing in the arts, pulling and coming together to support the arts. And then I know many of you in this room have advocated very, very hard for the SB 1116, Senate Bill 1116, Equitable Payroll Fund. There was $11.5 million that was secured, and so that is a huge win, but there is so much more work that needs to happen. The performing arts field we know is struggling. Theater, local theater, we know is struggling. And there are so many incredible advocates in the house here who are doing that hard work of continuing to advocate, and that needs to continue. And finally, I want to just flag this for you because this is something that you can do tomorrow. The California Arts Council is voting to essentially scrap the statewide and regional networks program. And this program is a really important program for a lot of regional organizations, including Arts for LA. This will potentially impact organizations across the entire state, and there's also a big discussion around setting a cap on funding. There's big discussion around setting a cap on statewide and local partners to access funding, and so tomorrow's meeting is incredibly important. You taking some time, listen in, weigh in with public comment. You can reach out to Arts for LA. We've got a ton of information that we can share with you, but it's an important moment for the field. Next slide. And finally, I'll share with you the work that we're doing on the Creative Jobs Collective. And the work on the Creative Jobs Collective is focused on pathwaying 10,000 youth and adults from historically underrepresented communities into the creative economy. At the top of the year, we set out to introduce a motion so that the county would prioritize this as an initiative and a priority of the county. We also were seeking to secure statewide funding for creative jobs programs like high road training partnerships, Senate Bill 628, which is known as the California Creative Workforce Act, which we co-sponsored along with Californians for the Arts, and then also getting SB 1116, the Equitable Payroll Fund, funded. And so our progress here, if we can go to the next slide. In April of this year, we did, Supervisor Solis and Supervisor Horvath introduced a motion to prioritize the Creative Jobs Collective for LA County. It passed unanimously. And we've been working since then with a steering committee of 19 partners that are cross-sectoral in nature. We have folks from labor, entertainment, business, nonprofit, government, academia, all working to try and develop recommendations on how we get to 10,000 jobs by the year 2030. That coalition has been built, and there's a whole work group that's being set up now to help us further detail the plans for how we get there. There's a huge opportunity for you all to get involved if you're interested.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. That deserves applause. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Gabrielle. So I do just want to highlight some of the data that was collected as part of this initiative as well through Civil Economics, an incredible partner of ours, and many other folks in the arts and culture sector. We discovered a lot of things that you probably all assumed, right? That there is an underrepresentation of people of color in the creative workforce. Before I get to the second bullet, which is very exciting, that fashion and artisan jobs will contract between 2023 and 2033, and those are the professions that contain the highest number of people of color working, and they provide the lowest average earnings. The professions that have the highest number of white folks working are tech, media, communications, and entertainment, and they provide the highest hourly earnings. So important for us to know as we continue to push for more job placements, specifically for underrepresented groups. What is extremely exciting is that we're expecting a 6.1% growth over the next 10 years for creative jobs. That's 62,066 per year. And so when folks say, oh, there aren't jobs in the creative art industry, that's a lie. There are jobs out there. It's how do we connect people with those jobs and how do we ensure it's reflective of LA's demographics. Next slide, please. Our next steps to address these issues, as Gustavo said, we're going to convene work groups around them. We're going to dial in on systems change, pathways and pipelines, and arts education with those work groups. They're going to help us come up with a list of policy recommendations for the Board of Supervisors. Our steering committee will help us synthesize those work groups' findings, and we'll put them into a report that we bring back to the Board of Supervisors early to mid next year. Next slide, please. In arts education, Prop 28, I want to start by saying we all know this is super exciting, right? $1 billion for arts education, incredible opportunity for arts educators. We've been fighting for this for a long time. There are a lot of unanswered questions. We know that it is very precarious, and we're working to get more information to folks. And so, despite the confusion around it, celebrate the win, because it is a huge win. And that was on our list of priorities, is how do we fulfill that promise because it's historical. And then also ensuring that youth have access to broadband. We learned during the pandemic, most homework happens online now, and if a student is being sent home with a laptop, how are they going to complete their homework if they don't have the internet? So that was put on our list of priorities, digital equity. Next slide, please. We joined the Prop 28 Implementation Advisory Council, which is led by Austin Buettner, to ensure that we do fulfill that promise. This is about disseminating information to the community like you all, and it's also about making sure that resources are accessible and that we're getting those answers we need from the California Department of Education. And then we also joined Digital Equity LA Coalition. This is a group of 70 people who are working in collaborations to achieve digital equity at the state and local level. And so one of the things that we accomplished with them is we initially supported AB 41, which would have made changes to DIVCA. It's a policy at the state level that essentially allows internet service providers to continue with price gouging of communities of color, different prices for different communities based on where you live. And this bill would have implemented equity requirements for those internet service providers. Those equity requirements were then removed from the bill, and so we successfully got the governor to veto it. We do want to look at it as a win, because had it gone through, that would have been terrible for communities of color. And then we actively are advocating for alternative credentialing and supplemental authorization to ensure that we can get teaching artists and people who are interested in a teaching profession into the classroom. Next slide, please. Our last area is affordable space. I will be very upfront with you. This is the area we need to focus on moving forward the most, because we've been so focused on creative jobs and arts education and resources this year that this has kind of fallen behind on our list. And so I recognize, as the Director of Policy and Advocacy, I have more work to do. Know that it's coming. But we have gotten some things done. What we have committed to on this is to find more subsidized space, safe space, and affordable space, not only to live in for artists and arts workers, but to work in, because we know that space is hard to come by for folks who are looking for rehearsal space or gallery space, and visual artists in particular. We heard from dancers that it's hard to find a space with safe dance floors when you're rehearsing that is affordable. And so this is a priority on our agenda, as well as educating local decision makers as to how artists can be problem solvers to homelessness and the housing crisis. Next slide, please. And so we have done a very good job at making the case for this to local elected officials. We have helped the Entertainment Community Fund push for more projects like the Hollywood Arts Collective. That is a 152 unit tax credit community for artists. Super exciting. There's an opportunity for 5 more of those projects in the future across the region. And so we've been trying to get elected officials on board with getting land leases, community land trusts for the Entertainment Community Fund to follow through on those projects. We also helped secure the passage of AB 812, which helps local government prioritize affordable housing near cultural districts. That was a huge win at the state level. And then working to convene artists, elected officials, and developers to position us as creative problem solvers. So you'll hear more about that from us moving forward. We have some exciting ideas. Great.